The latest polling in this state has Biden beating Sanders, though the margin varies from a few points to double digits depending on the poll. In North Carolina, keep in mind, the latest polling shows Sanders, Biden, and Bloomberg all vying for the top spot. Brittany, the Biden campaign considers the Carolinas, and in particular South Carolina, its firewall. After a slow start, the former vice president hopes that the Palmetto State and its block of African-American voters will help change the narrative on this election. It's the lunch rush at Hannibal's Soul Kitchen in Charleston. With an election just days away, many have made their choice, with one candidate's name popping up more than others, Joe Biden.
He was in the White House. I mean, he was the vice president. He know the views. You know, we need good health care. I believe that he will keep that going.
But even among Biden supporters, not everyone is exactly enthusiastic. Is there anyone that's as compelling as Obama that has you as excited?
No, just average. Everybody average.
Clay Middleton, a Democratic strategist who directed Hillary Clinton's Palmetto State primary efforts in 2016, says none of the 2020 candidates have had the best ground game in place here. But he says developments this week, like a positive debate performance and a key congressional endorsement, have given Biden's camp a boost.
I think his campaign has been focusing on running a general election campaign in the season of a primary, and I think that was a mistake. And over the last few weeks, they have learned that there's some adjustments that they should have made earlier.
And the stakes could not be higher. After lackluster performances in the first primary contest, election watcher Kyle Kondik says South Carolina is key.
I think if Biden loses South Carolina, that probably means he's not going to win other states in the South that vote on Super Tuesday. In a complicated campaign year, Biden may benefit from the concern some voters have about the current frontrunner, Bernie Sanders. Nick Schreiber, who we found walking with his family in nearby Mount Pleasant, says he's voting for Biden in hopes of drawing out the primary process. He wants Michael Bloomberg to have a shot at being the nominee. Bloomberg, who is not on the ballot here, is instead focusing his efforts on Super Tuesday.
You know, I particularly like Bloomberg's experience, like that he's a centrist, and I mean, I like a lot of the people in the field. I just don't think that somebody like Sanders or Elizabeth Warren is going to be able to get too much through Congress.
Now, one other side note here, Kyle Kondik also says that what we see here in South Carolina, for example, African-American voter turnout, could serve as a preview of coming attractions, a sneak peek, if you will, of what to expect in nearby Super Tuesday states, like North Carolina. Reporting in Charleston, I'm Kevin Frey, Spectrum News. The other thing that I thought was interesting today was several of the voters that I spoke to in that restaurant also just weren't too excited about any of the candidates in the field. That includes this Biden supporter. Listen to that exchange we had. Is there anyone that's as compelling as Obama that has you as excited?
No, just average. Everybody average.
Everybody average. So if that's the enthusiasm for Biden or any of the candidates, what does that mean come November, regardless of who the candidate is, Tim?
Yeah, Donald Trump will love to hear that soundbite, no question about that.
Amy, well, there was just a rather loud cheer from the room in here. The NBC News broadcast that was on the screen declared this race a victory for the Biden campaign, which resulted in a lot of cheering. The Associated Press is also calling this race for Joe Biden, which is good news for this campaign. They had been focusing a lot of energy here after dismal performances in New Hampshire and Iowa. The Biden campaign long calling South Carolina its firewall. But the other things that you're going to need to watch tonight is what happens to the other candidates. Who comes in second? Who comes in third? Bernie Sanders, for example. Tom Steyer invested a lot of money into this race here. Will either of them get on the leaderboard and get enough votes to even get any delegates out of this state? That remains an open question. Joe Biden declaring victory here after poor showings in some of the earlier primary states. Think Iowa, New Hampshire. He's winning here by a wide margin. The Biden campaign long referring to the Palmetto State as its firewall, citing specifically the African-American vote. This is the first real test of the African-American vote, and by all indications, they came out in force for the Biden campaign. Speaking at this watch party, he described them as the heart of the Democratic Party. He also thanked South Carolina, saying they brought him back.
I told you all that you could launch a candidacy. You launched Bill Clinton, Barack Obama to the presidency. Now you launched our campaign on the path to defeating Donald Trump.
The question after South Carolina is what happens next. In just a matter of days, voters across the country will be heading to the polls for Super Tuesday. Will Biden be able to build off of this and gather some momentum going into those Super Tuesday states where he doesn't have necessarily as big of an infrastructure, as many ad buys as some of his competitors? Think the former mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg, who has spent big in Super Tuesday states, betting on those states to launch his campaign. So can Biden build off of this and gain some momentum? The other question after South Carolina is what happens to some of these other candidates who did not perform very well among African-American voters? What happens to them next? That is where things stand after the Palmetto State.